Okay, welcome to the Final Stages webinar. This afternoon, we will be showing you how to proof and submit your pages in the Memory Book Online program. This webinar is approximately going to take us about 20-30 minutes. It's kind of a short one, and it's just showing you kind of the ending stages of when you have your pages ready. What do you do? What are the most important things to do before you complete and submit those in to us? Now, one thing that we're going to go over again, and it's just we went over in our last session with building activity pages. I'm going to touch on it one more time here, and it's the concept of bleeds and margins. And essentially what bleed means when it comes to printing is bleed means full color that extends beyond the edge of the page. And when we're looking at one of our pages, the bleed is represented by this outer area that's just past the reddish-orange line here. Now, when you push something out into the bleed, you'll notice it's in this faded area here. So why it's important to have things like backgrounds and, if you're on certain design pages, having stuff bleed off the page is if you have backgrounds that are bleeding off the page, when they go to get trimmed, essentially it's leaving you a full color extended up past the edge of the page. And when they go to get trimmed, it doesn't leave you with any white edging or anything. That'll kind of make the page not look as well as it could. So that's what's this outer area here is. And then this reddish orange line here that we have, this is our estimated trim line. And then moving in from there, this is the blue line here is our estimated page margins. And really, this is your safe area. This is where you'll want to keep all important images and text so they're not put at risk of being trimmed. Now, when you're building your book, there are layouts. You can push your images all the way out to the edge, kind of like how I have this one here. But when you're looking for images to bleed, ideally you want to keep a lot of your images within the margins, but if you do find layouts that have photo boxes that bleed off the edge, things that you're kind of looking for to put in that will go into that bleed area is empty space in a photo that's not being utilized. So like something like this image, instead of bleeding at the top of the page, would probably work out better down at the bottom. And that way, any of this empty space in here would get trimmed. So it's if you do certain layouts in which you have pushed images out to the bleed, you're kind of looking for it. Make sure you don't want someone's head being trimmed off, like in this situation here. So just want to retouch on bleeds and margins again. You'll want all important images and text within the inside blue margin line. Reddish orangish line is our estimated trim line, and this outer area here is our bleed. And really in most cases, the only thing you really want bleeding out to the edge here would be a background on a page. But now if you do have certain things, you notice, okay, people's heads are being trimmed off on certain things and that, you might need to kind of readjust and take another look at your layout. Either move things back into the margins or move that photo to another spot on the page or swap photos around. Just that way you're not getting anything important trimmed, like someone's face or head or anything that's not going to be, when the parent gets the book, they're going to be like, well, why is, half of my child's head? So not anything that's going to bring yourself embarrassment or that in the final pages. So moving on, when we get the first really thing before you start completing is you'll want to review pages. So I'm going to go out to my plan here. And I'm going to go to one of my pages that I've set up for this. Now, one of the important things or tools that we have here in our program for reviewing is there on your top toolbar, you have a check spelling or spell check. Now, when you click on this, this is going to check this page spread out only here. So when you go to run this spell check, yeah, you might run it on all pages. Now the spell check only checks the page that you're on. So it's not going to check all of your pages. It's just checking the page or page spread that you're on at the time. Now, especially you'll want to run this spell check on pages of importance. Page 1 if you have a title page, or a principles page, or a dedication page, or any kind of memoriam page. So you definitely, on those pages of importance, go ahead and when you're on the page, go ahead and click on check spelling. If it finds anything misspelled on the page, it'll bring that up. So in this case, I had the word activites instead of activities there on the page. So it'll give you an option or suggestions of what to change that to. In this case, it wants to change it to activities, and that's exactly what I want to change it to. So I would hit change, or if it found it in multiple spots, change all. Now, one thing that the spell check will not correct is words spelled correctly but in the wrong usage. So like there or there, THERE or THEIR. It's not kind of sophisticated like Microsoft Word or something where it's going to check that grammar. It's only checking spelling. So it's always good to go back through and proofread those pages of importance. In addition to running spell check, it'll catch anything that's spelled incorrectly. So we'll go ahead and hit change there. Now, candidates is spelled correct. And I'm not sure why it wants to do conduits, but that's going to be okay. So I'm going to ignore that because candids in this case is candid images. So I'm going to ignore that. And it's found another box. So I'm going to close that for now. Now, another thing you'll do when you are going through your pages is check your class pages. Really, when you get onto your class pages, you'll want to look for, double check, make sure you don't have any duplicates. Having a duplicate image is not, we won't put the book on hold for this. We don't stop the book for this, so it's just, make sure you check for duplicates and take care of those by yourself. Or you'll have a kiddo there that's got an extra copy of themselves in the yearbook there. Now, if you do find yourself with a duplicate image, how you can take care of that is the first thing I would do is, if you're on a class page like this, is I've noticed two things. I have a duplicate image, and I have a teacher that's not taking the top spot within this. And in this specific example, the teachers are flowing with the classes. You want the teacher to take the very first spot here. So two things we need to kind of fix real quick while we're reviewing this page is take out the duplicate and position that teacher to where they take the first spot. First thing that we'll want to do is go to the flow tab. And this is straight class, and they're already pulled up here. We're going to reset this flow. And that's just going to take everybody back out. All right. To fix this, we're going to go into Photos. And from Portrait, I'm going to find the category we're working on here. So there's two things. One, I have a duplicate image. I'm going to, so I just clicked on the little blue information eye. You can also double click on the photo. It'll bring it up in the image preview. From here, I'm going to go into Details, and I'm going to change this to Don't Use Portrait, and then Apply Changes, and done. So there we've taken care of our duplicate. So again, it's just going under the details, marking as don't use, then apply changes. Now the second thing we need to take care of here is positioning or marking our teacher to where they flow first. So we're going to go under the teacher. We're going to go under her details. Now she has a type of student. Now this type spot is a hierarchy. So if anyone marked teacher will flow first, then student, well, teacher, and then assistant, and then student, and then other. So I'm going to mark this as teacher. So she takes the first spot in the flow and apply changes. And done. Okay, so now that we have taken care of our duplicate image and we have changed a setting on our teacher to where they flow first, we're now good to go back to Pages. We can go back over to the Flow tab now that we're back on the page, and we can flow everybody in. So now that we took care of duplicate, okay, one thing I noticed, we have an extra box on the end. If we want the empty spot to be more on the outside here, to where it doesn't leave a hole here, we're going to reset one more time. I'm going to take away this first spot here to where that everybody's kind of flush on one side there, and I'll flow everybody in. Okay, so now we have a corrected class page. We have, teacher is first. We have the duplicate out, only one copy of that kiddo. And we have everybody flowed. And essentially this page is now done. Unless you want to add a background, or you could have a background on there too. But now the next thing, when you're reviewing your pages and getting close to completing, and I'm going to jump back here, is you'll want to, as you're reviewing your pages, making sure everything's just so, check with, up at the top toolbar, click on the Highlight Incomplete Elements button. And what this will do when you click on this is if there is an empty photo box or an empty text box on the page, this button is going to highlight those, so you can either remove those elements if they're hidden behind something, because sometimes if you're using different layouts, or if you bring different layouts on, sometimes maybe something got stuck or was locked and it remained. Or maybe if you were just building a collage page, maybe something like a photo box got lost in the shuffle. So this Highlight Incomplete Elements button is going to say, it's going to highlight an empty text box here, and it's going to highlight an empty photo box. And it'll highlight it if it's behind something or not as well. So even if this is behind something, so let's say you're not aware that you have an empty element on the page. So, you run this and you go, oh, and it'll say what it is. There's an empty image box there. So you can grab that out and move that over. Either, use it for something if it's a spot that's just randomly, accidentally left open, or remove it just by hitting your backspace or delete key. So definitely a good button to go through when you're kind of reviewing and completing your pages there. So another tool that I'll help you here with is in Plan, and it's the Virtual Book. Now, Virtual Book, what this is, and I'm sorry I didn't have a whole lot of pages filled out on this account, but basically the Virtual Book is just a preview that includes the bleed. And so basically it's a book is shown not trimmed. It's just a basic tool. You can kind of use either the page forward buttons down here, you can go to certain pages, or you can kind of click and hold and kind of flip through it. You can also click and it'll flip through, but it's going to give you an idea of how this book is going to feel whenever you're going through it. So it's another review tool that you have available. So you kind of go through here. That way it gives you a feel, is everything flowing right? Are my grades flowing right? But it's just a quick way to kind of go through here, give you a sense of, what this book is going to look like. But remember, it does include the bleed, so it's not going to show what it's looking like trimmed there at all. But basic use, you can go through the pages. You can kind of skip furthest to the back. You can also use the page forward buttons. Sometimes just gives you the feel of pulling through here. If you land on a certain page, you'd be like, if you spot something, let me go back. If you spot something, you can click the edit button. It'll take you to those pages in the pages area to where you can work on them. Now I'm going to jump back to number 1 plan. So there's a couple different ways when you're reviewing. Some like to print out the pages. There's a few different ways you can go about printing out your pages. The first couple spots here in number 1 plan, there is the print drop down, and you'll want to go under print all. And what this will do, I'm going to allow pop-ups, because one thing you need in order to do the print all is you need your pop-ups turned on. So if you do print all, what it's going to do, and I may not let this generate all the way, but it's going to go through a phase where it's going to generate, the print all is going to generate a low-res PDF proof of the whole book. And depending on how much content you have, how many photos you've used, this may take a little while to generate. So if you do use this, it's best to run this from a wired internet connection, a wired desktop or laptop connection. If you do find yourself working wirelessly, you may want to be in an area that has your speed is up, and also where you have the strongest signal. But it's going to go through here. It's going to generate a whole book proof. Now, when it is complete, it'll say complete here, and you would then click on this spot here. But this one's taken quite a bit of time here, and I don't want to just kind of sit here and be idle and you guys just wait on this to get done. Other ways that you can do it, you can just print pages at a time here in the plan by clicking on the little printer icon next to the page. It'll generate a PDF proof from here as well. Now, if we go into the pages area, if you're wanting to print a page proof from here, it's the button right next to the Save button, Preview page. You click on this. Like I said, again, it'll generate a low-res PDF proof there, and it's going to show you the estimated trim line where your page is going to be trimmed. So this is really good for reviewing along the way as well. In case, if you need to have certain other people check this out with you, you can generate that proof, print it out, hand it out, and that way you can get some helpers to help you check on stuff, make sure, they catch anything in photos or they catch any spelling, they can mark these up and hand them back to you, and then you can make any changes that you want there in the program. Another way you can go about this, there is now this green share button here. This is for you'll only see this if you're logged in with an advisor login. If you click on this green share button, basically it's going to bring up the page. You can put in someone's email address in here, and then once you put it in there, you can hit share, and basically it shares a PDF proof with the recipient. So if you want to do things a little more eco-friendly, you want to keep things a little greener, this is an excellent way to go through. So like, let's say that you have teachers helping you, or let's say that this is an assignment from your principal. There's all different scenarios here. Let's say the principal or something said, hey, I want to check out on this this dedication page to our teacher of the year. I want to make sure this is really right. Or, hey, can you send me a proof or something of my page in the book, my principal's page. I want to make sure that my letter is looking the best way. So there's many different scenarios here, but if you want to just not print out the paper, not waste ink, you want to have some help in proofing these, that's what this share button is. You can just put an email address in here and share that to the person, and it's another way to get them a proof. So now it's kind of to the point where, let's say that your pages are done. You are ready to send them in. You're ready to complete them. You're ready to submit. What do you do there? So you kind of come back full circle all the way around. So you kind of start and plan, do your planning, your order of how you want your pages to go. You then kind of can go into photos, start uploading, and bounce between these two spots most of the time, pages and photos. Now, when you're ready to complete and submit, you'll go back to plan. Now, next to each page in plan, you will see a complete button. Now, so when you're ready to complete a page, just hit complete. You'll get a message here, page is completed. You'll hit OK. Now you'll see your page go from being outlined in yellow to outlined in a light green. Now at this point in time, this just puts the page at a locked status. So once you hit complete, it gives you two options. You can either return the page, which will put the page back in progress so you can make any changes, or you can submit it. Now, as a completed page, only someone with an advisor login can return the page. So if you have staff helping you on these pages and they complete their pages, they will then have to go to you to have them returned. So like I said, only the advisor login can then either uncomplete a page or unlock a page, and only the advisor is able to submit a page. Staff only has the ability to complete them, but they cannot send them all the way in. They can't unlock them, so it's only the advisor can uncomplete and submit a page here. Now, as you're going through these, if there is something that is not finished on a page, let's say that you have a empty photo box, empty text box on a page, and in some of these cases you're not aware of it. What you'll do is when you hit complete, the program is going to give you, says you might have some more work to do before you can submit the following pages. So on page 11, it's going to let me know, oh, I have a text element remains unedited. So that's an empty text box. And then an empty image box exists. Okay, there's a empty photo box there on the page as well. We hit OK. So from there, this is when you would kind of go onto the page. And kind of going back to it, if it's not glaring, if it's not like right out there, like, oh, there it is. Again, that's where you can hit this highlight incomplete elements button. It'll highlight the empty photo box, empty text box that is there. And if they're behind something, or you weren't even aware, let's say that you weren't even aware that it was there. Or let's say you didn't even notice that text box was there. You hit that. Actually, it just had a small thing there. No, it's going to do that. So even if it's not there, you can then just delete them off. Now, once you have your elements taken off, the empty elements, you're going to hit save. Now, once you have everything taken care of on that page, come back to plan here. You can hit complete. as long as page is completed, there's nothing else wrong, hit OK. So it's basically smooth sailing there from there. Okay. Page 13, an empty image box exists. So again, something's tucked behind something. If it's not just glaring where it's at, you're going to hit that. Okay, I've got an empty image box there. I hit delete to remove it. Save. Went way too far and hit complete. Okay. Now, just as a suggestion, one thing we do suggest is going down through, and before you start submitting anything, it's probably best just to keep them at a complete status. Make sure all your pages complete first, and you have them all completed, and then you can go through and submit. Like I said, having them at that completed status, you still have that ability to jump back on the page and make any last changes. Now, once they are submitted or completed here, what you can do, you can still kind of hit approve of the page. Let's say you're in the proofing process here. You catch something, you can always return the page, make that change, and put it back at a completed status. Now, one thing I'll say just from here, with your proofs, depending on what browser you have, you can print them, you can save them digitally. So you can, if you wanted to save a little ink, save a little toner there, keep things a little green, you can just download them digitally as well. And kind of similar to the share function, if you download them digitally, you can attach these to an email and send these out for review as well. And then once you feel everything is complete, everything's completed, everything looks good, you've reviewed it, you've double reviewed it, you've triple reviewed it. If you think it is all set, ready for printing, you would then just come through and hit the submit button. You hit OK. Now, when your pages are submitted, they will then go from this lighter green color, and then you'll see the outer color of these pages turn to black, and this outline right here means they are submitted. Now, once the page is submitted, once all your pages are submitted, usually within 48 hours, you will receive an email with your invoice there. And this invoice, this email, usually it verifies, number of pages, number of copies, options that you have selected. If you find anything out of place with that, please contact your sales rep immediately to, let's say that maybe you need to boost the copy count there. Maybe there were certain options or enhancements that you thought you had, or maybe you didn't sign up for. So double check that email that comes out there. Like I said, once you submit and have these submitted, usually within 48 hours, you'll receive that email with the invoice attached. Now, another thing, when it comes to submitted pages, if you find something that, let's say you find a mistake after you submitted, get a hold of us as fast as you can. If it's still let's say you submitted and it's a few days before your due date, if it's before your due date and everything, please give us a call. We can, as long as it's still before the due date or there, we can open that page up for you. If you need a page opened back up, you can call us here in tech support. If it's before your due date, if it's on or after your due date, contact your sales rep. They'd be able to help unsubmit a page so you can make any last second corrections as well. Now that's as far as what we were covering tonight. That is all we kind of had to go over as far as completing and reviewing in the final stages within MBO. At this time, I mean, if there's any questions over the content we had tonight, like I said, there's a chat line here within your MBO stuff that you can add in a chat. I've got a few minutes here. I could answer just a few questions before we wrap up. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing anything coming in there. While you're going through these processes, definitely make good use out of the spell check and some of the reviewing tools, printing the proofs. Definitely get people involved to help with reviewing, just to ensure that you have the best yearbook that you have. So thank you for joining me this afternoon. Please feel free to contact technical support or customer service rep with any questions or concern. We want to make your yearbook experience as pleasant as possible. So everyone at Memory Book Company is looking forward to see this year's creations. So thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon.